Welcome back to Dirty 20, everybody. Today we're discussing the all-drinking, all-travelling, quest-giving champ of the Forgotten Realms. It's Volothamp Gadam. Let's get on with the show. Now, many of you may know the name, but not necessarily know the man, something that we hope to resolve today. And if you want to be kept up to date with all our videos here on Dirty 20, please hit that subscribe button and click the little bell icon to get notified when new videos are released. But back to Volo, and perhaps we should let him introduce himself as he does in the preface to his eponymous book, Volo's Guide to Monsters, in 5th edition. He says, Volothamp Gadam at your service, setting forth truths like the deep and ancient secrets whispered into my ears by the guardian spirits of the hidden tombs of fallen archmages now dust. Now, perhaps like me, your first introduction to this self-aggrandizing and slightly pompous and meager wizard, we'll get onto that, don't worry. The first time you might have come across him was with his book, Volo's Guide to Monsters, released for 5th edition. This was the first expansion on the monster manuals for 5th edition, and unlike in 4th edition where they'd just kind of gone ahead and released Monster Manual 1, Monster Manual 2, and so on and so forth. They took a slightly different tact with this, and in this, they were going back to some of the earlier stuff that was released for 2nd edition, which we will discuss. But initially, I really enjoyed this kind of comedic take on a character in-world that is delivering this lore, these stat blocks, in a kind of fun way. And I first encountered it in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, but this one was kind of the first one to do it for 5th edition. And like I say, I think it works really well in both in Volo's Guide to Monsters and Xanathar's Guide to Everything. But this does bring us to a slight gripe that I've had with some of the other books that have followed this kind of style. I'm a big fan of comedy in D&D. I think it's an essential part of it. But I think that comedy needs to be kind of counterbalanced with drama. And sometimes you have characters that lend themselves to a bit of comedy and characters that maybe lend themselves more towards drama. And I think that with the recent release of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, I think that maybe her story is one more suited to drama than it is to comedy, and yet they've kind of gone that way. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, I don't know Mordenkainen that well. He is technically a character created for the Greyhawk setting. But honestly, I feel like they did well with both Xanathar's and Volo's, and they thought, oh, well, let's continue. People like the humor. And again, real kind of minor gripe for me with these books, because I've loved them pretty much all. But I hope they remedy this in the future and kind of get that balance right. Having said that, in this book, you get a real nice sense of his character through his little annotations, his self-aggrandizing, again, which I think gives you a really great idea of how you might play him in your campaign. Now, it turns out that Volo has a long history in Dungeons & Dragons and the Forgotten Realms, all the way back to 2nd edition, which is the edition that I kind of very first started playing with when I was a kid. But he became, like in 5th edition, and this is obviously the original way of doing it, he became a character that lore could be dispensed. They did a whole series of Volo's guides, including Volo's Guide to Waterdeep, to Baldur's Gate, to the Sword Coast, And from the very beginning in those books, we see this kind of dynamic with Elminster, another real kind of legendary character of the Forgotten Realms, one I'm sure we're going to be doing a video about soon enough. But you get this kind of dynamic, and again, it all feeds into how you might be able to roleplay him in your campaign. And this was all very well translated into the 5th edition version, Volo's Guide to Monsters, which was, again, really an extension, an expansion on the monster manual, but gave it a nice little kind of bit of charm. But all of these things are really just a kind of nice little window into kind of Volo's character. They don't necessarily inform much else. But another publication which he was featured prominently in was Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Now, don't worry, this isn't a spoiler, but in the adventure, very early on, you're in Waterdeep and you go to the Yawning Portal, a fantastic location in the Forgotten Realms, and maybe worthy of a Characters of the Forgotten Realms in and of itself. But he's there, and he introduces himself to you. And in this, he kind of plays the role which I think he is best suited to. I think it's the one where he's been used in video games like Baldur's Gate 2, and I think he's in Baldur's Gate 3 as well, which I've yet to play. But the role is a quest giver, right? He has a problem and he comes to you for a solution. In this case, his friend is missing, and he asks you to go and find him, setting you on the road to adventure. Now, this is something that I would not hesitate to lift straight from the book, even if I wasn't running Dragon Heist. Mostly because that's one of the great things about Volo is, yeah, he can be in Waterdeep, but he can be pretty much anywhere on the Sword Coast, maybe even on, you know, Faerun. I mean, he's done guides on the Moonshae Isles and Calimshan, Cormyr, you know, all these like places around, and so he's very capable of popping up anywhere, which I really like, because he can be a recurring character and something that your players will kind of enjoy and look forward to. Now, unlike all our other entries in Characters of the Forgotten Realms, Volo is really not one for violence. Even in his preface to Volo's Guide to Monsters, he kind of gives you a hint of what his tactics might be if he's ever in trouble. Betimes I used my not inconsiderable magic to disguise myself as a tree, stone, or even a puddle, and so prepare the very best guide I possibly could. I also really like the little note that Elminster does on Volo's writing. He says, "Betimes, Volo misconstrues the meaning of words. Here, for example, he means non-existent." And this is really important for later on, because this is one of the elements of Volo that I think are perhaps most interesting about him. But straight away, you look at his CR of 1/4, and you know he is not designed for combat. I could imagine using him in a kind of rescue encounter where the adventurers have to keep him alive. He's got 31 hit points, which is not a lot. He's got an AC of 11, and most of his spells, at least on the stat block, are kind of useless, and I really like that. I love that he's got like comprehend languages, which in a situation where you're trying to run away from people, not helpful at all. But I really like that idea. But this does bring us to perhaps the most interesting aspect of Volo, which is the fact that he is an unreliable NPC. All his pomp, all his self-aggrandizement, the little notes that Elminster makes about Volo, and just everything points to a guy who is very, very prone to exaggeration. And this is a fantastic characteristic for an NPC who can set people off on quests with the wrong information, who can, help, certainly because he's such a font of knowledge, right? That you feel justified in giving your player characters a lot of information from Volo, but how much of it is true, how much of it is exaggerated, that's where things start to get interesting. And this all makes him a, I think, really fun choice for a character that's a legendary one in the Forgotten Realms that isn't going to break things in terms of, you know, if characters pick a fight with him, you know, he's going to wipe the floor with him. No, he's harmless, fun, and someone that I think is immediately recognizable as an ally. There we have it. Thank you so much for watching this video today. What are your thoughts on the Traveller Extraordinaire Volo? Would you consider including him in your campaign? Please give us a thumbs up if you have enjoyed this, and share this video with your friends. And as always, keep slaying. If you've enjoyed this content, then please smash that like button, subscribe, share this around online, and come and visit our website, www.lavictoriaproductions.com, to see all our past episodes, as well as our blog posts and all the stuff that we're currently working on at La Victoria Productions. Why not reach out to us and tell us what you think of our videos? You can reach us on Twitter. @MouthLaVictoria is our producer. We are also on Instagram. I am EnanoLVP, and our producer is Jazzy J. Cherot. We're also La Victoria Productions on Facebook and LinkedIn. Come on by and let us know what you think.